Welcome to some new r/malicious compliance stories, where people comply to the letter, but not the spirit of a request. I hope you had a great day. Thanks for all the likes and comments on the last video. If you would like to support this channel, please hit the like button and consider subscribing if you enjoy the content. And now let's start with the first story. It's called Fix It Now. I used to work for a satellite TV company in the 90s. This one customer called in. He had us searching for satellite error. This is usually the equivalent of the blue screen of death, as it usually means the actual dish needs to be either readjusted or just replaced outright. Basically, something we can't fix over the phone. It's to the point in the conversation where we need to schedule an appointment for a tech to come to take a look. The customer gets irate because they wanted it fixed now. The closest tech appointment is like a week out, which makes the customer even that much more mad. We come to an impasse, where the customer is refusing to schedule the tech and tells me they aren't hanging up until it's fixed. I get an idea. I tell the customer we are gonna try something off script. I ask them to go over to the phone jack and see if that cable is connected. The customer says yes. I ask the customer to remove the cord. That was the end of the conversation. The next story is called Termination Letter. I was working for a security company. Let's call it ASD Security. We had 3 shifts, day and evening and night for the weekday, and 12-hour shifts for the weekend. Being the new guy, I was on the night shift. The job was at a trucking company. We were in a booth in the middle of the entrance, and our job was basically to make a ticket that we give the driver for the in and outs of trucks. Driver's name, the license plate of the truck, truck's trailer number, date stamped. I did the stacks at night. And we had a log for trailer numbers also that we cross-checked. Because it's a night shift and less traffic, our job was also a perimeter check. We were logging in all trailers and trucks in a separate log, stamping the date on tickets, maybe 200 tickets if not more, and we were a call center for other security guards on other sites. Meaning every hour, the other security guards would call me. I want 12 of them to check in and say everything is fine. If one didn't check in, I called. If no one answered, I had to send a patrol car to make sure everything was okay. Also making sure the doors are locked, the security system armed, and cleaning the booth. The client of the trucking company complained to ASD Security that I was always on my phone, didn't like the fact that I was smoking, and that he saw me on camera talking to myself and found it weird. 1 week in, after training was done, there was no way I was going to be picking up or making 12 calls an hour. I got my old Bluetooth headset, single ear thingy, and hooked it up to the work cell phone. That helped me stamp out the tickets while taking the calls. I could be on a security check of the property and still take calls and write down the incoming calls. I could even do the logs of trailers, since I was hands-free. But hey, I was on my phone too much. Monday morning, my shift was about to end. Everything is done. My checklist is empty of tasks to do. And who pulls up in an ASD security car? My director. She pulls me to the side, hands me a letter and explains what's happening. Letter of termination due to the client's complaint. Reason number 1, 2 and 3, and please sign on the dotted line. The only thing I said was, seriously? The letter stated that my termination was in 1 week. Here, the laws are that if a company terminates/fires you, they have to give you 2 weeks notice. If the notice is shorter than 2 weeks, the remaining time must be paid out. I happily signed, and she had already signed her part. I went in the booth to collect my things. My supervisor is the one doing the day shift and was puzzled. He asked me what was happening. I just told him that Madame ASD Security just fired me and the letter says my last day is Friday. He told me to stay in the booth and started yelling at the director while walking towards her. He came back swearing because he was not told ASD Security was firing me. They didn't have a replacement guard and training was about 1 week. Along came Friday and my supervisor was not happy. I had a trash bag with the uniform and gear they gave me. After my shift was done, I drove to the office, dropped the bag on Madame ASD Security's desk and left. She was not at her desk. My phone rang. It was the director, asking what was going on and why did I bring back my uniform as I still had 1 week's notice left to fulfill legally. I just answered, as per the termination contract we both signed, on Monday 20th of May, the last day of work will be Friday the 25th. I am sorry. But legally speaking, as this letter is signed by both parties, if I come to work past the 25th and something goes wrong, I am not covered by ASD Security. and this letter can be used as proof against me. Please send me my check for the remainder of my 2 weeks notice by mail. Have a nice day." She tried to contact me again in the afternoon, but my phone was on mute as I went to bed. I woke up to a text message saying they are screwed and don't have a replacement for me. Could I come in at least for that weekend? I did not answer and never heard from her again. My ex-supervisor called me, asking if I was going to come in, and I said no. He was swearing because he had to call the day guy, put him on the night shifts and take his place during the weekend, and messed up the schedule and the hours of everyone. They had to fork out overtime not paid by the client because it was ASD Security's problem. They had to find a replacement ASAP and train him and get him to work solo during the following weekend, with more overtime and more screwed up schedules. The last story is called "Stop Blaming Him." This one happened a while back. I used to work as a temp in a cardboard factory. I started out assisting the machine operators in their work, but after the person who managed the materials, Dave, was forced to take a week off, things went south. The floor managers couldn't keep up with his job and their own at the same time. So the company decided we needed a second person to do Dave's job to avoid situations like that in the future. They tested several people by having them work together with Dave for a couple of hours. And apparently I was the only one who did a decent job, and so I was told Dave would be training me. I was never asked if I was interested. I didn't even know they were looking for someone to help Dave, until I arrived at work one Monday, and my schedule said I would be working with Dave. Of course I didn't mind, because I was already capable of helping operate 8 of the 10 machines in the factory. I figured this was a great way to further solidify an actual contract with the company. Now, during his week off, Dave had met a woman and they started dating. She would constantly text him while he was at work, and it showed in his productivity. Of course, the COO figured his drop in productivity was because I was slowing him down. As time went on, Dave's girlfriend moved in with him. Now, I haven't mentioned this yet, but the factory had a 2-shift system, early shift and late shift. Most of us worked rotating shifts, but Dave had a fixed early shift because he had to be there on Monday mornings. Now, this meant Dave and his girlfriend could never go out on weekdays and even had to go to bed quite early. So Dave requested to be put back on rotating shifts once he had finished training me. The CEO said he would look into it, but kept giving Dave excuses. So Dave started interviewing for another job. Then came the day. Dave and I were called into the CEO's office and got yelled at for not pulling our weight and stuff like that. One of the things mentioned was repeated tardiness. Dave couldn't deny that he had overslept several times in the last few months, but I had only been tardy once, because of a flat tire. So, wanting to set the record straight, I tried to interject about my flat tire, and the CEO snapped at me to keep my trap shut while he's talking. So, after his rant, he dismisses us from his office. I once again bring up the flat tire, and he just snaps at me again that I should have just avoided having a flat tire. That was the last drop for Dave. He got home, wrote his letter of resignation, mailed it to the COO and accepted one of the job offers he had gotten that week. For the next 3 months I'm stuck doing all the work on my own. Also during this time, due to a change in the laws in my country, I might become homeless unless I get a contract. So I start asking the CEO for a contract, since I've been there 2.5 years as a temp at that point. Just like with Dave, he keeps giving me excuses. After an incident with them refusing any vacation time requests I put in that included a Monday, they finally gave me someone to train to be my second. Let's call him Abdul. About a month after I started training Abdul, I get called into the floor manager's office. Apparently, a mistake was made somewhere, and he asked me how that happened. Now, that was the first week I was letting Abdul work independently without me constantly telling him what to do. So I tell the floor manager that Abdul had done that job and I had not yet had the chance to inspect his work. He grumbles but just dismisses me. A week later, I get called in again for a similar situation. So again, I point out that Abdul is learning and mistakes will be made. This time the manager blows up at me that I have to stop blaming everything on Abdul, and if I blame one more mistake on Abdul being a rookie, he's getting me fired. Around the same time, Abdul and I were put in opposing shifts. My first order of business every day would be to double check all of Abdul's work and fix any mistakes. I couldn't inform him of his mistakes, so he kept making them. Abdul also started to get sneaky. Part of our tasks had to be done in an area of the factory where only the two of us would frequently go. So Abdul would do all the work that was to be done where people could see him, leaving me with all the tasks behind the scenes, meaning I was never anywhere to be found. We also had these big barrels of ink, which were hooked up to a machine that mixed the basic colors of ink into other colors. Abdul had always refused to change these barrels when they were empty. He would usually state he hadn't had time, even though making sure those barrels aren't empty was a priority job. This eventually all culminates into a moment about 8 months after Dave left, where I'm once again called into the CEO's office. I'm thinking I'm finally getting my contract after 3 years as a temp. I'm also convinced Abdul got a contract the week before, though Abdul and the CEO have always denied that. Instead, I'm told I'm fired. The COO also goes out of his way to inform me that he's been wanting to fire me for 6 months now because he blames me for Dave quitting. But he was asked not to by the floor managers until I had trained someone to replace me, and they considered Abdul to be ready to do the job now. He also told me that he did appreciate the work I did, he just had a problem with me personally. After my meeting with the CEO, I make my round of the factory to inform my coworkers that I have been fired and to say goodbye. The look on Abdul's face was pure panic. He suddenly realized that despite me demonstrating how to change those ink barrels, he had never actually done it himself, and as such didn't remember how to do it. A week after I left, I got a message from one of my former coworkers. He told me that the entire factory was looking to go to the CEO's office and demand they rehire me, because Abdul was not only doing a poor job, but he was also being a megalomaniac. I told her not to bother, because if they did rehire me, it would only make the CEO hate me even more. Several months after, another former coworker informed me that not even a month after I was fired, Abdul was demoted back to the assistant machine operator. One of the floor managers had to take over his task full time. And with that, we end today's video. Let me know what you think about the stories. On a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate the stories and today's video? I hope you enjoyed the video. If you like what I do and want to support me, please subscribe and hit the like button. I hope you have a great day. Stay safe. Bye bye.